Welcome back to Church Chats, where we talk with our friends about faith, church, and life. And we're back with Matt, Britt. Thanks for being here again.
Yeah.
I want to talk about youth ministries a little more.
Okay.
You and I are, I feel like, kindred spirits since we met. We both like guitars a lot, which we'll get into later. We'll talk about our guitar obsession. But also, immediately, having been a youth minister for 10 years, I gravitated toward you and Kat pretty quickly when I first got here. But I really respect the way that y'all set up your youth ministry.
Oh, thanks.
Really the model of it. I grew up, well not grew up, but my two full-time jobs as a youth minister were in, I wouldn't call it rural, but it's not downtown. It's more, what did you call it?
Oh, like neighborhood or like suburb churches?
Neighborhood churches, suburb churches, where I'm the only full-time staff member on the youth ministry staff. And I always felt like, okay, I've got to do everything. And so to have my hands in everything, I have to be at every event. I have to be at, I have to have programming down correctly. I have to teach every Bible study, all of that. But the way y'all have set it up here, and with a youth group this large, a youth ministry this large, and you've got more people. I mean, you've got more volunteers, you've got more staff, you've got more kids. You do have to delegate it out a little bit.
In theory.
So yeah, talk a little bit about that. You've got, how many people are on the youth staff now?
So full-time, we have a full-time admin named Mirta. She's great. And then we've got two full-time youth ministries program staff who help with all things programming and the kind of like upfront stuff with kids. And then me as the director, also full-time. So 4 full-time. Over the summer, we've got a summer intern who's full-time, but no school year intern. So it's kind of like, oh, we have some part-time staff around, just depending on what we need in a given year.
So, and you recently took over as director of student ministries.
Yeah, about a year
ago. How's that change worked out? Like, as far as like, how's your job different than it used to be, and how's...
I like it less.
You like it?
No, it's honestly, it's fine. So the biggest shift, into being the director, is more of the kind of like bigger church stuff, which I was doing a lot of anyway. I like it. I'm a big systems thinker, and so for me, like, it's easier to work inside of the larger thing when I feel like I have a better understanding of the whole thing. And so, I was already doing a fair amount of that. It's more paperwork and things like that. I didn't have to write the budget before, but so it's some stuff like that that's like less fun, but honestly, it's fine. Most of it's the same. The team's really great. They're all incredibly valuable. We had a new person who just started with us who will be taking over for Evan, who's rolling off of our staff at the end of the summer. He and August are moving back to the Bay Area where they both did seminary because they've got some opportunities out there. And so Reverend Rebecca Davis, who's a ordained DOC clergy person, wants to be in full-time youth ministry, and so she saw our posting on Progressive Youth Ministry and applied, and we're really excited to have her on our staff too. And Claire Mena, who's a former youth of this place, grew up here, spent a lot of time here, volunteered here when she was in college, interned here for us, and then I brought her on as full-time staff because Claire's great, and I needed somebody who had a level of institutional knowledge that I did not. So the team's really great. It makes things really easy when you've got good people you can trust. So,
and so as far as, I don't want to say delegating, but like how you choose like who does what, and I mean, because I think about the amount of high schools that are represented at this church is vast, right? So
significant, yeah.
Like I'm thinking, I was the youth minister at Aledo UMC for 6-7 years, and there's one high school there.
There's one high school's games you have to go to.
Correct.
And one high school's concert.
One middle school.
One graduation, and it's not one here.
Yeah. So how do you do that? Because one of the things about the model of youth ministry y'all are all about is showing up. And which is one thing that I really respect, because I do think it makes such a huge difference in just showing up, being a part of students' lives, So how do you make that work?
A careful balance of spontaneity and scheduling. So at the beginning of every semester, we do a big push with both students and families of like, send us your schedule, send us your schedule, send us your schedule. If you send us your schedule, we will do everything we can to make sure we get at least one of your things on our calendar. We try and make sure we get like, if you invite us to something or send us your schedule, we're going to go to something. And so then we sit down once we have most of those in and just basically are like, okay, if we're going to cap it as like we're doing 2 events a week, which is what I try and do because people deserve to have a life. And like I have a kid now, so I can't be gone that many nights a week. So like, okay, we're going to try and schedule that out. And then on weeks where we only have one, if a kid on Sunday is like, hey, can you come to my game on Tuesday? We'll look. And if it works, like one of us will do our best to be there.
Right.
And so it's kind of a balance. It's like we try and plan as much as we can in advance. And I'm a big Outlook calendar user with our team. And so everything's on shared calendars here. And it's like, okay, Claire and Evan are doing this event. But if I click on their calendar, I see that like, oh, on Friday they're doing this. And so if I'm doing something else, they can see that too. And so it's some of that and some of the like, we work with teenagers.
Sure.
They don't plan ahead that well.
What? They don't?
And so there's times where it's like, I've said, send us your schedule every Sunday for 4 weeks. And then they're like, oh, I have a game tomorrow. Can you come? And I'm like, I don't know. Let me look at my calendar and my family calendar and talk to my wife. And I will do my best to be there. Or like one of us will try and be there. Because a big part of what we do is showing up. And part of that's like, when you've got one kind of neighborhood or one suburb that you're working with, you've got one set of schedules you're also balancing. Like Aledo ISD has stuff going on during these times or whatever. And so if you're scheduling midweek programming, you kind of know like, all right, they don't have Wednesdays, which is normally the day that it is, where there's much going on, so we can do Wednesday night programming. Man, we're like all over the place. And we've got public schools and private schools and charter schools, and we got people that are driving in from outside school districts and like families as far as like Mansfield and North Richland Hills and some families that come in from like Aledo or Weatherford. Like we're all over the place. And so for us, part of the like, our normal programming is going to kid events. Like it is that showing up because we know if we try and get you to come to downtown during rush hour traffic, it's just not going to happen for a lot of families. You got, you're picking up from school or from practice and then you got to eat and then you got to get here. It's just not going to work. And so instead of being like, okay, you come to us, we go to you. And that's part of our programming for us is that like, okay, instead of doing midweek programming, we're doing kid events every week, with a few weeks here and there where there's just a dull week. There's not much going on. And then weeks like the 2 weeks before Christmas break where it's like everybody has choir concerts and band concerts and plays and end of basketball season and football playoffs. And like, it's just, graduation just happened. I did graduation, funeral, party, graduation all in the span of like 24 hours.
Holy cow.
So
sounds like a gauntlet.
Yeah. So there's times where it's like that, but it's here and there and we get some downtime. Not over the summer, but here and there. Usually March, weirdly.
What's one of the weirdest events you've gone to? Because Casey came to one of my barrel racing races once when I was in high school, and she said that was one of the weirdest ones that she's been to.
Yeah, those are always the fun ones because, like, I love going to middle school volleyball games, but they're all the same. Worst events we go to are middle school orchestra.
Oof.
They're tough.
My
parents
brother
know
was
they're
in
tough.
orchestra. It's hard.
Yeah, it's hard. I love those kids. They will get better. They always get better.
Some of them will.
You just mentioned that, and my head started to hurt.
Yeah. You know that. You know that pain. Weirdest event. I don't know. I've got to do a few like science fairs and stuff that have been fun. Just because like they don't come up that often.
Yeah.
I did. I didn't get to go, but a kid invited us to. It was basically a plant and wildlife classification competition, where it was like they just had all these like plants on a table, and he walked around with a clipboard and had to basically like name all of these different species of plants and animals, and this is this type. He said there was a whole section on like dung, which feels weird, but yeah, stuff like that. One of the coolest ones we got to go to is guess he's a rising junior now, won a competition for composing a piece that was then performed by the Mansfield Orchestra.
Whoa.
And he and his co-composer got to like go sit on stage while like this entire symphony performed a piece that they had written.
That's crazy.
That is awesome.
Like, I still get like goosebumps thinking about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some cool ones in there. I like the one-off ones. This year I get to do, so just like in a lot of things, you know, you've got your football and whatever else. Kids will say like, oh, I'm doing this. And it always goes on like, I need to do that before you stop doing that thing.
Yeah.
So field hockey is one. Private schools
that's
around here
cool.
do field hockey. But none of our kids that have played have ever invited us until this year. So I got to do field hockey. It was one of Ellie's first events that she went to with me. So she like brought a car seat along with.
Perfect.
And this year, Fort Worth ISD, I guess last year too, did their first couple of seasons of sanctioned girls flag football. And had
cool.
one of our rising juniors who was playing flag football as part of like organized sports for Fort Worth ISD. And so we got to go to one of the early season games, which is good because then she got hurt and then didn't play. So, yeah, so that was cool. Boys volleyball is now the next one up there. Some of the private schools around here do that, and I haven't gotten to do that yet. So, I don't know. Eventually, we'll get to do this, but
Yeah, I would guess that those, the ones that aren't the norm, like you said, like volleyball, orchestra, football. I mean, you've seen one, you've seen them all, kind of thing. But not that you don't want to support the kids, because it makes a difference. Like Allie said,
Yeah.
her barrel racing and Casey showing up to that. I mean,
it made my day.
right. And so, I mean, that's part of why youth ministry is so important.
yeah, and like that was how long ago, Allie? Like,
I was like 14, 15.
yeah, and you still remember
Yeah.
that. Like it's 10 years, 10 plus years. Like, you know, kids still remember that you showed up for them. And for me, like the biggest part of that is like, no, I want to support you in you doing whatever the thing is that you love. And like for some of our kids, it's football. For some of our kids, it's choir. For some of our kids, it's theater. For some of our kids, it's classifying plants and animals because he's now in college for like conservation. So like it was kind of his thing. And so, you know, getting to go be a part of a student's life and show up for them beyond just the like, okay, you're here on Sunday morning or you're on a trip or whatever it is. It's like, no, I care about you as a person, not just as a participant in whatever random thing I threw together for a Sunday.
Right.
You know, it makes a difference and it matters. And, you know, it's the best part of this job. Like, I don't love sitting at a computer and answering emails for 8 hours a week. It's got to get done, but like, you know,
That's not why you're.
that's
doing
not why
what
I'm
you're
doing this.
Yeah. You talk a lot about. Recently, I got to go on the Revolution Weekend with y'all, which is every January, February.
January, yeah.
And you talked a lot on that retreat about the specialness of the Justin building. And something about it is just a different kind of place. Martin Leathers, a former youth minister here, that many of you all may know, he was the speaker. And one of the things that, you know, a bunch of us before worship were talking about was how he just said it's just such, like, community is such an important part of what the Justin is. Can you talk about the Justin and what makes this youth ministry so special?
Yeah, I think, you know, one of the fun things over the last couple of years, Martin was our guest speaker last year, and Casey Orr, who was here before and a little bit with Martin, was our speaker the year before that. And one of the real gifts of getting to have both of them back were they were people that really love this place, were invested in this place, and have moved on from this place, and now can kind of reflect on what this place meant to them and what it was like and what's different from the context they're in now. And you get some of that benefits of like, you have some distance from a place, but like I don't yet. And so getting to talk to Martin and Casey has provided some like good kind of context of like, all right, I'm going to have these conversations with people who know this place the way that I know this place, but now who also have the benefit of like having taken a step back and can kind of see the bigger picture. And one of the things that like Martin and I talked about during kind of like our debrief of Revolution Weekend was this idea that like for a lot of churches, and it's not just a youth ministry thing, it's, what we try and do with a lot of the stuff we do outside of worship on Sunday mornings, is we're trying to create community. That, like, we're trying to give people this experience of belonging, where they know that they're somewhere that they're wanted, they're accepted, that they're a part of. And one of the things that Martin and I kind of like kicking around landed on was like, for the Justin, community's not accidental. It's not a byproduct. It's not, we're doing programming and we hope that community happens because of it. Community is foundational. Yeah. Like, it all starts with community. It's all grounded in community. Community is the thing we do, and then everything else happens out of that. And so it's this really cool dynamic of like, it doesn't really matter what I do for programming as long as like community's at the center. Like, my Sunday school lesson can be bad. It doesn't really matter as long as kids are getting this experience of community and belonging that is hard to come by. Right. Like, there's a reason why we're all searching for it. Yeah. Even us as adults, we're searching for that place of belonging and meaning and identity. And the Justin's one of those places that provides it, that opens its doors and says, like, you as you are welcome here. Like, no questions, no ifs, ands, or buts. One of our school year themes a couple years ago was no matter what. Like, this kind of idea being like, you are part of this no matter what. Like, if you're here, if you show up, if you're one of the people that comes here and invests here and is part of this here, you are part of it. You belong here no matter what. And so at its core, that's what I think makes the Justin special, is that it's this idea, this feeling that like community is not a byproduct, it's not accidental, it's foundational. And everything starts and ends there. And so for things like high school mission trip, honestly, this is going to come out after we're all done with high school mission trip. I'm sure it's going to go great. It's going to be lovely. It is Thursday at 11:05. We will do our first service site Monday at noon, and I don't have that information yet. The organization that we're working with has not sent me the service site information yet. I don't know where we're going to be on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday or Friday. And honestly, it doesn't really matter.
It's going to be okay.
Like,
it works out.
It works out. And, this will be, I haven't counted mission trips in a while. I don't know, a lot. And at least my fifth one here, because we didn't do them in 2020. So it's my fifth one here. It's going to be fine. Like, we'll figure it out. Worst case scenario, we go spend an afternoon at a park or whatever. Yeah. Like, it'll be fine. But the reason it doesn't matter isn't because I know we'll be able to come up with things on the fly. It's because if kids leave that experience having found this belonging in a place of community that sees them and knows them and loves them for exactly who they are, and they leave feeling like, I am part of this and we made a difference here, and bring that back with them, that's the ball game. Yep. That they know they have a place that they can come and that they are safe and they're wanted and they're loved. Like, at the end of the day, that's all you can ask for. Yeah. And so, it'll work out. It'll be fine. I'm sure high school mission trip's going to be great. It was great. I'm just going to say it now. It was great. But, at the end of the day, as long as that's the end goal and everything we're doing is in that, to that end, we'll be fine.
Well, one thing, I would say too, just about the Justin. My wife and I met in the Justin in youth. We met in high school. That's where we met, and I'll send you this picture after the fact. But when we first came back and started leading music at the gathering, we just started there, but Kat let us into the youth building, and so I've got this picture of Taylor and I on the stage in the youth building, and then. Yeah. Like 18 years ago, like the same picture, and there is something special about it. There is something, here, my friend David, who we graduated together from the youth group, in the Justin. I mean, he and his daughter attend the gathering every Sunday. I give him a big hug. There's something about the community that still sticks with you, and so I mean, that's something. it's hard to explain unless you experience it, that you've been over there and that you understand that. So I think we're going to take a little break and we'll jump back in just a minute. In a bit, we're going to talk about guitars and playing music and bands, and maybe We Are the Band. We need to talk about We Are the Band.
Your legacy.
Oh, yeah. Well, y'all named it long after
you
I
started
left.
it.
But long after we left, it was it's called We Are the Band is the name of the band. So you say we are the band.
Yeah.
It's great.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. So we'll be back in just a bit and we'll talk a little bit more, have some fun with Matt. See you soon.